It's a night of rain and thunderstorms across the northeast and mid-Atlantic states around a deepening upper trough that's eventually going to lead to some very chilly air that'll be coming in next week. But until then, we can look forward to maybe better weather on Friday and the weekend. Otherwise, the weather across the rest of the nation is quiet, and Tropical Storm Karl is still lurking about as it drifts southward toward the coast of Mexico. We'll cover it all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, your go-to place to make sure your house looks great, is functioning well, and is going to be able to stand up to any adverse weather. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and that's in southwest Suffolk County. That is in Long Island, and that is part of the New York, New Jersey tri-state area to which Omni serves. And with winter coming up, remember, they are the go-to place for rock salt. They have tons of it at reasonable prices for you snow removal folks. And they've also got mulch and topsoil to make your yard look great, batteries, generators, sump pumps, everything you need in case some nasty weather comes. 631-756-1125. Nowhere can you find better prices. The website is
OmniTrueValue.com. And I know that some of you are sad because you're going without baseball tonight, but it was anticipated that there wouldn't be any baseball because of all the rain. But it's going to be a lovely day tomorrow, Joe. Bright sunshine and probably in the mid to upper 60s. And the Yankees have postponed their game this evening to tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. And that is really when baseball is to be played, in the bright and glorious sunshine. And it will be, again, a very lovely afternoon. So don't despair. Things are going to be a lot better weather-wise tomorrow. Right now, though, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. Rain is still needed. I know you're going to say, well, we had 5 days of rain, and some places had many inches of it, but it takes time for a drought situation to be alleviated. So it's not just one rainfall, but it usually requires several soaking rain events in order to really replace the dry conditions. And we're getting it today, and I suppose you could look ahead to the fact that other than maybe on Monday when the upper trough and showers move through to usher in the colder air for next week and beyond, it looks like the pattern overall is going to be dry most of the time. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
I would say that, we may see a little bit of precipitation Sunday night and into Monday, and maybe even if we can stretch it out early on Tuesday, but then we'll dry things out. And boy, I tell you, Joe, you talk about chilly temperatures. We're talking about mid and low 50s for high temperatures for Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday of next week. And this in stark contrast to what we've had in recent days where the temperatures have been flirting with 70. Even tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, well into the 60s to near 70 degrees. So next few days coming up look very, very nice. And then fall is really going to be here when we get to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week.
Yeah, I was looking at the digital forecast from the Weather Service go out 7 days, so you can start to see the numbers that they're putting out for Wednesday morning, which is probably where we're going to see the coldest of the cold air come in. And they've got most of the area, except for the warmest urban and coastal areas, which are close to 40. They have everybody pretty much down in the 30s. I'm thinking maybe a lot of times when they do those forecasts, they tend to be in a situation like this. They tend to be too high 7 days out, and they gradually bring the numbers down as a little bit as they get closer. But you know what? If they do, knock it down by a couple of more degrees, and we might have some freezes in some areas next week, the first ones of the season.
Yes, that could very well happen, especially if we get one of those clear and calm nights with a lack of any significant wind. Right now, though, the winds are fairly gusty, especially along coastal areas. And that plus the fact that we do have bands of showers and even maybe a little bit of embedded convection, and we'll be dealing with that. There may be some spurts of moderate to heavy rain during the first half of the night before things begin to peter out after midnight. But it should all be over. At least I think it'll be all over, except maybe for the eastern end of Long Island by, daybreak tomorrow morning, leading us into what should be, again, a very nice day.
And we can take a look at the satellite, and Joe Rayo's going to be doing the radars in just a second, but you can see what's going on the satellite loop. First of all, what stands out, aside from what's going on in the east and around the Great Lakes, the rest of the country today, just an absolutely terrific day for the most part. Blue skies and sunshine. I had to wait for most of the day for the clouds to get out of the way, but it's finally cleared out here in northeast Georgia. And by the way, the color is astounding. And I don't have a visible here, but tomorrow on Sunday, if we've got clear enough skies, if you run the visible loops, the tight visible loops from the GOES satellite website, you can actually see the fall colors in Pennsylvania, in upstate New York, and in New England. They actually show up on the satellite. That's how detailed and wonderful these satellite loops are. And to the south, you could see the kind of disorganized, sort of disheveled look to an extent of Tropical Storm Karl as it drifts slowly southward toward the coast of Mexico. It's completely missing this upper trough, and it's hard to believe, Joe, but you look across West Texas, and then you look across the central and northern Gulf states, and everything is moving from west to east. Karl is just far enough south that it's not getting caught in that flow, and perhaps creating a problem for Florida if it had. That's not going to happen.
Well, you talk about the leaves, Joe. I would have to say that I do see quite a bit of color where I am, and most of it is on my lawn because most of the leaves, I guess, thanks to the gusty winds and the cold temperatures, the very chilly temperatures that we have had the last few nights, a lot of the leaves just fell, just dropped. And I have in my backyard, it's sort of like an orange carpet, and in the front lawn, there are a few spots where a bunch of leaves have fallen. I will say that I wasn't expecting to change so quickly, but last week I would have told you we had like 85-90% green on the trees, but now the leaves are really the colors are really beginning to show up quite rapidly now. An acceleration of the fall foliage here in Putnam County. Now, if we could only keep the leaves on the trees for a little bit so you can admire them from up there instead of on my lawn, that would be very nice.
Color down here is actually really come into its own the last couple of days. And I remember from last year, we really didn't see the leaves change much until the middle part of November. And it just came and went very quickly. But I guess the fact that we had a reasonably wet summer here, and it's been bone dry. I have only had yesterday, Joe, 5 drops of rain trace. So effectively, I have not had measurable rainfall here for 32 or 33 days in a row, and that streak's going to continue into the weekend and next week. Meanwhile, on the radar, very busy radar, especially up over Long Island and just off the New Jersey coast, and a lot of what's out in the ocean is moving northward. But of course, Mr. Rayo will be starting off with radar views, and we'll take a look at what's going on. Yep, it is, and you're going to be there in just a second. There you go. So it's all yours.
Well, you can see that the movement is basically south to north. By the way, Joe, on most of the models, we have a little compact, albeit rather impressive, storm system that is moving up from the south. I wouldn't call it exactly a nor'easter, but it is helping to to accentuate the rainfall and make it a little bit heavier than what it might normally be. But you can see here that the cells are moving from south to north, and the brighter shades of yellow and orange are the areas where the rain is coming down particularly hard, particularly heavy. It's not widespread, not a large coverage to that type of rain, but every once in a while you'll be outside and bang, it'll be coming down really hard for 5 or 10 minutes before that particular cell of precip moves on out and then just leaves you with lingering showers. A lot of what you see on the radar right now will be with us at least into the first half of the night. And then after midnight, the precip will begin to wind down and everything will begin to shift off to the east. And again, by about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, it'll be all gone. And we'll be in a clearing mode, and that'll set the stage for a reasonably nice day coming up on Friday. Let's check out some other radars in and around the area. We'll look at, let's check out Boston, see how they're doing. And you can see that they've had a surge of rain and more to come. This area, just up from the south of Rhode Island, will likely be over Rhode Island, Providence and Newport in the next hour or so. And then we'll continue a couple of hours from now, probably be in the vicinity of Boston, and then continue on north across coastal New Hampshire and down east Maine. Let's see what's going on. Now, to the west, there's really not all that much to write home about. I'll show you Binghamton's radar, and you can see some bands, a few narrow bands of moderate rain. But notice that the precip apparently is beginning to let up across central sections of New York. It's still raining. There's still some showers, but not all that much as compared to further to the east across southeastern New York and into southern New England, a sign that things are beginning to peter out. And if we go to Pittsburgh, you could see that, well, a couple of leftover showers here, but more or less fairly dry. And we see a few scattered showers over in Ohio. No big deal. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you. How about
Thank you.
How about Mount Halley?
Mount Halley. We'll take a look at Mount Halley, Philadelphia, to some of you who are not initiated yet. And you can see that they're picking up on a little bit of a narrow line here of showers. There may even be some embedded thunderstorms moving through western sections of New Jersey. And there seems to be like a corridor of dry weather here. But again, as this area moves north and then also eventually shifts eastward, places across northern and central New Jersey may get back into the rainfall a little bit later on this evening. But as you can see, most of the activity, Joe, is just off the Jersey shoreline and to the south of Long Island, moving northward and now covering up most of Long Island. And they will be in the rain probably for at least the first half of the night and on into probably the first few hours of Friday after midnight and into the early hours of like 2, 3 in the morning.
And after this, looks like the next chance probably will be on Monday, I think, from what I saw earlier today.
Well, Monday or maybe even Sunday night. I know that the last couple of days it looked like that some of the clouds would move in beginning later Sunday, so we might lose some of that sunshine. But now it looks like Sunday's going to be a bright day, probably a mostly sunny day, and then we'll watch it cloud up overnight Sunday night with some shower activity, which will spill over into Monday, and may, if it lingers long enough, spill over into early on Tuesday. I want to just take a look at what Mr. Cioffi has. Mr. Cioffi has nothing.
Oh wait, what do I have? Yeah, no, not a flake. Yeah, not a flake, not an ice pellet, nothing.
Yes, bone dry. Almost looks like it looks like a beating heart here, you know?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Very slow beating heart. It might be a hibernating polar bear.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's bring us back here. Before we go on, just want to welcome everybody that's on the chat board, including a very hacked off William Jersey Shore who never complains, is upset over the fact that they canceled the Yankee game because it's just a drizzle. He says, I just happened to look, I just happened to check. If it makes you feel better, LaGuardia, which is not really that far from where Yankee Stadium was reporting moderate rain as of 7 o'clock. So maybe it's drizzling where you are, but it may be raining heavier there. So I don't cancel games. So I don't know what their criteria is to cancel games. No mayab, as they used to say. And also welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight. on this Thursday, the 13th of October. Happy birthday to Quincy McCoy. Had a birthday, I think, a day or two ago. Many happy returns of the day, and hope you enjoyed your birthday. Those of you who are new to our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, welcome. And you can subscribe and set your notifications so that you can watch the Joe and Joe Weather Show every time it's on. And it's on Monday through Thursday at 7:35 Eastern Time, Sundays at 11 a.m. And it's not that there isn't any rain on Friday and weather on Friday and Saturdays. There is, but Joe and I need to take a couple of days to sort of recharge a battery or two. So that means that you'll do without, unless there is a storm going on, and then he and I usually rearrange the schedule, and we would work a 6th or 7th day. On that note, we can now move on. Let me get me out of here, and we bring out the wide radar view again, and we will take it from there. Here we go. And there you have it. There's the wide view of the radar of what's going on in the Northeast. Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont are going to do really well with this as far as rainfall amounts. And the rain does tail off. You go from Virginia down into North Florida and west across the Gulf states. It's nice and quiet. We have some showers in South Florida today. We also have a couple of downpours and thunderstorms south of Houston, down along the coastal bend of Texas. Further north, some scattered showers in Ohio, mostly on the light side. Also in and around the Great Lakes, we're seeing some patches of shower activity. And this might be, Joe, I have to go back and look at the maps, but I'm thinking the area that you see coming into northern Minnesota and North Dakota, that could very well be an area of snow that is dropping southeastward.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what? It's always nice to have snow before even Halloween in some cases, right? Well, maybe not like 11 years ago where I had like 14 inches, but you're waiting out there. You're waiting out there for the great pumpkin, and it starts to snow. That's not too good.
No, it certainly isn't. So let's see what WPC has to say with regards to the rainfall, and this is from 8 o'clock tonight to 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And the rains are going to be 1.5 inches or more in central and eastern Connecticut over Rhode Island, much of Massachusetts, much of Vermont, New Hampshire, and even a stripe of 2 to 2.5 inches up into northern New Hampshire and north. Maine is such a weird state. I mean, position geographic-wise, because I don't know what to call southeast or northwest, because northwest could be the northwest quarter near New Hampshire, but you could also say it's up where Caribou is or west of Caribou, but you get the idea. And also you see how dry the rest of the country is, and the precip around the Great Lakes on the light side. And as we go through the next several days, this is Friday night to Saturday night. Now we've got Saturday night to Sunday, where we start to see significant rains breaking out from Southern California, east across Arizona, New Mexico, across Texas, and Oklahoma, on the order of anywhere from 1/4 inch in the dark green to maybe as much as an inch in the lighter blue. Day 4, more rain for New Mexico and much of west and south central Texas. Day 5, this is now, we're into, well, let me go back to day 4, because day 4 in the northeast, and this is with the most important cold front of all. This is from Sunday night through Monday night. And it's not a lot. Sometimes when you see these areas covering a large geography, you think it's a lot of rain, but always remember to check the scale on the side. The darkest green is 1/4 inch. And then the lighter green is 1/10 to 1/4, and the lightest green is 1/100th to 1/10. So for the most part, it's 1/4 inch or less. And then when we move into day 5, which is Tuesday into Wednesday, some of what you see around the Great Lakes, and that includes, by the way, upstate Western New York and Northwest PA, is probably going to be in the form of some lake effect. And the same goes for day 6 and then on to day 7. So the 7-day totals, if you take out what's going on tonight, much of what you'd see in the northeast and the middle Atlantic states would be very light because of the next weather front. And the plains are dry. Most of the northern part of the Ohio Valley, at least, dry for the next 7 days. The central and northern Rockies, and much of the west except for Southern California. Now, where are we going pattern-wise?
Gee, I don't know.
Where would you like to go?
You mean in terms of warmer or colder than normal, or?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, before we would start on this, just to back on what you said, the GFS had that little low that it was forming off the New Jersey coast for a bunch of runs, and then it lost it last night, and then it brought it back overnight and this morning, and that accounts for the rain that's offshore. So I wanted to make sure I brought that up. Meanwhile, here's the deep upper trough. Yeah, I look at this, Joe, and I'm thinking, if this were January, this would be something. But here's that deep upper trough dropping southward into Minnesota on Friday. Now, initially, the push of cold air is to the west. That's behind this first front. So we're really not going to see much with that first front in terms of a cool down. We have to wait for this thing to pivot eastward, and that really doesn't begin to happen really until late in the weekend and early next week. And there you see, as it pivots around, it strengthens like one arm goes up and then it just another big short wave drops down and strengthens it. That is a very deep upper low that moves into the eastern states next Tuesday. And then going forward, it rotates around again, and it's got another arm that comes down for next weekend and keeps temperatures below normal. So once we get past Monday, when that front goes by, we're likely to see below average temperatures. Monday's the 17th. The upper air shot you're seeing right now is Monday, October 24th, with the trough on the coast. It's likely to stay below normal maybe into at least Tuesday the 25th until, after that, maybe the trough tries to pull out, or at least it should pull out. But this is a very cold-looking upper air for the middle part of October.
Now, it was Tony Gigi, right, that you said did a survey or a study about cold temperatures and warm temperatures versus snowfall in the month of October?
Well, he didn't do snowfall. It was just strictly temperatures. And he looked at the last 30 years of Octobers in Philadelphia, which admittedly is just one data point, but you could at least assume that the same conditions probably occurred within 100 or so miles around it. I'd be curious to what the New York records were during that time. But anyway, there were those 30 Octobers, 15 were above normal, 15 were below normal. If you look at the 15 below normal Octobers, okay, they were 10 of them led to below normal winters in terms of temperature. He didn't make any correlation to snowfall. So 10 of the 15 below normal temperatures. Of those 5 Octobers that failed, okay, to deliver below normal temperatures, 3 of those were in El Nino years, and 2 I think were in El Nino, 1 was La Nina. 97 and 98, and I forgot what the other one was. But on the 3 that failed, the cold October was followed by a warm November. So that's what he found in that data set of 30.
Well, I did a data set in for Central Park for October, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I came up with 4 out of 30 Octobers going back to 1992. 14 of the 30 were above normal. There were 2 Octobers that were literally right on the button. The normal for October is 57.9, and in the year 2020 and in 2005, those 2 years were exactly normal, 57.9. So that's 14 and 2, 16. So that means that there were 14 above normal Octobers over the last 30 years, 14 below normal Octobers over the last 30 years, and 2
that were normal.
Exactly normal.
All right, so now why don't we take the 2 that were exactly normal and put them with the 14 that were below? So let's say 6, so we got 16. So what you need to look at is whether in those 16 cold Octobers, how many of those led to a colder than normal winter. I would guess that it's probably what number you might come up with is probably very close to what Philadelphia had. Maybe it's possible, it's certainly possible that Philadelphia could have above normal temperature wise and New York City have below normal, or even the reverse, depending on what the overall pattern was that winter. And the other thing to look at too would be I remember I forgot who initially told me this, but cold October and November's coupled together tend to have a higher probability that you would have a colder than normal winter temperature wise.
Mm-hmm.
So we could take these statistics and bend them any way we'd like. None of them is a guarantee of outcome.
Well, the coldest October, and I mentioned this last night, in these last 30 years is 30 years ago. Coldest October 1992, where it averaged 54.5 degrees, or 3.4 degrees below normal. That by far is the coldest October. All the other Octobers that have been below normal have been generally 2 degrees or less. Well, okay, let me correct that. 2002 and 2003 were both fairly chilly, 2.7 degrees below normal in 2002. An October that was 2.8 degrees below normal in 2003. And 2004, 1.9 degrees below normal. So there was a stretch from 2002 through 2004 where we had a string of 3 consecutive rather chilly or chillier than normal Octobers. However, over the last few years, we did have, a normal October temperature-wise 2020, but 2021, 19, 18 was slightly below normal, 0.2, then 17, 6.2 degrees above normal. 2017, the warmest October on record out of the last 150 plus some odd years in New York. But there was a whole string of above normal Octobers from 2012 all the way to 2017. There's a little bit of a, backing down to 0.2 degrees below normal in 2018, and then 2019, 2 degrees above normal, and near normal in 2020, and 4.1 degrees, a warm October just a year ago. So you could see that when we were talking about the fact that, we're not used to, or you've said, Joe, that, you can't really recall when we've had such a chilly or fall-like October. Well, over the last 10 years or so, we've had like 1 or 2, near or below normal years of when October was, a little cooler than normal. But most of the time, it has been mild. And again, especially so 5 years ago, 5 Octobers ago, when we had the warmest October on record at just over 6 degrees above normal. So, yeah, to have what we're seeing and what we're about to see next week with below normal temperatures, that's going to be kind of a switch from what we've been accustomed to over the last decade.
And the departures on these cold days have been pretty large numbers, so that even if after, say, the 24th or 25th, when it looks like the pattern relaxes a bit, so let's just assume that, let's say, the last 5 days of the month wind up being above average, or by a few degrees, it's not going to really make a huge dent in the magnitude of how below normal October is going to turn out to be, just based on what we're seeing at the moment. So yeah, and again, to try to try to hook it up with the idea of what the winter's going to be like is just really not going to be useful. You can bend statistics to make them say whatever you want them to say if you look at them long enough. So on the latest GFS, you can see our little it actually does show that coastal low off the Jersey coast tonight, moving northeastward. Actually moves right over southeastern New England, so maybe they'll get a bit of a precip pop out of that. And then it lifts up into Maine and goes away. The first shot, as we said, of that the first shot of cooler air coming down is playing out around the Great Lakes, and you see that area of snow that is coming down on the radar from earlier. Now we're going to be moving into northern Minnesota tonight and into Wisconsin tomorrow morning into the afternoon. Then that goes away. That low is going to lift out, and then we have to wait for the second cold front that's going to come through here on Sunday night, Monday, and there's a little ripple of moisture that comes out of the southwest that runs northeastward. So, yeah, Sunday night into Monday, maybe a couple of showers running around, and you start to see the lake effect on Monday around Lake Superior, around Lake Michigan, and then on Tuesday, and I think you're right, Joe, there could even be a lingering rain shower early on Tuesday as this thing really starts to settle in. But that's when we'll start to see some lake effect snows, maybe in northwest PA and in southwestern New York. Could even be mixed with a little rain because the lakes are still pretty warm. And that continues Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. The core of the cold air, looks like the core of the cold air comes in during the day Wednesday into Wednesday evening. And it also looks like the gradient is tight enough that we probably won't have any of those radiational nights. And after that, we have a couple of days of a west wind, so we'll probably moderate, but I don't think we're going to get that warm. And then here comes the next cold front for next Friday or Saturday, and that moves on through. And here comes another shot of cold air for Sunday and Monday and into Tuesday of the 23rd, 24th, 25th. And then out that goes, and this is where the pattern starts to relax a bit, and the flow in the upper atmosphere from Canada takes a break, and we have more of a west-east flow across the U.S. And now whether it winds up producing anything and whether the model's correct on this, it remains to be seen. But at least through next weekend, I think we're going to be dealing with the pattern that's going to be producing two distinct cold shots of air that'll be coming into the eastern part of the United States.
On the chat board, William Jersey Shore says, Yankee game was canceled by the commissioner to stop our momentum. Let me tell you, William Jersey Shore, that, and you're talking to somebody who actually, for a good number of years, did the weather for the New York Mets back in the 80s and early 90s. The company I was affiliated with had contracted out with the Mets, and we had to provide them with the forecast. And it was not canceled by the commissioner. The commissioner had no right to do the cancellations. What happens is that the host city, in this case New York, and the Yankees, they are the ones who will make the call before the game, before the first ball is thrown. They will call the game if they care to. So it was the Yankees, the Yankee management, who I might add called the game, relatively early. They didn't, a lot of people, Joe, they say that when there's, the weather is iffy, they don't make the call or they don't call the game off until after a number of fans have come to the ballpark, parked their car, paid the tariff. Now, I don't know what it is at Yankee Stadium, but at Citi Field, in order to park your car, you would have had to pay $50, which is way above what it is during the normal season. I think during the season, it's $30 to park your car, $50. And usually what happens is they get an X number of cars into the parking lot. They look out and they say, all right, we got a good about half or three-quarters of the lot is filled. All right, let's call the game now. They call the game, and you have a lot of PO'd fans who spent $50 already to park their car. No, the Yankees called today's game relatively early in the afternoon. They must have gotten the weather forecasts and saw the potential for spurts of moderate or even heavy rain this evening and said, it isn't worth it. It isn't worth trying to do this, especially when tomorrow is going to be so much nicer. So it was the Yankees who called it, not the commissioner. And the commissioner would have no say in, he has no interest whatsoever in who wins or who loses. So the illusion that the commissioner called it to stop the momentum of the Yankees, no, that's not the case.
Oh, but it's much more fun, Joe, to believe in to have a conspiracy theory.
Oh, yeah.
It's much more fun to believe in a conspiracy theory because you know what? It makes you more important in other people. Like, that's how a person who says these sorts of things feels. It's like, I'm going to make myself important, so I'm going to tell you something that only I know, and I'm sharing it with you. So you can sit at my feet while I preach to you about what's really going on because I'm the only one that knows about it. That's what that is. Okay.
But again, just to make it perfectly clear, before the first pitch is thrown, if the first pitch is thrown, it is the ball club, the host ball club, that has the say in whether or not the game will be canceled or delayed. But as soon as the game begins, and if the game begins and then it starts to rain again, it no longer is the home ball club. Then it's in the then it's the umpire's decision as to whether or not the game will be held up or whether it will be canceled or whatever. There's a very funny story. Very quickly, there was a case where many years ago, the Mets were playing the Giants at the Polo Grounds, and George Weiss, who was the president of the New York Mets back then, or the general manager of the Mets, it's almost an official game. They almost get to 4.5 innings, and then the rains come down, and it was a huge crowd. It was something like 50,000 people at the Polo Grounds. And if the game is canceled, the Mets have to give all that money back because the game is not an official ball game. So the rain starts pouring down, and the George Weiss calls up the chief umpire and says, "Please don't call this game. We've been in communication with LaGuardia Airport, and it is the rain has quit out there, and they assure us that in sometime in the next 15 or 20 minutes, the rain is going to quit, and we'll be able to resume the game." So 20 minutes later, they look out, and it's still coming down like in buckets. And again, George Weiss calls the head umpire and says, "Please don't call the game. LaGuardia says it's going to quit any time now." And this goes on for like the next 2 hours until finally the whole field is like a quagmire. And the head umpire calls George Weiss up and says, "George, please tell your public address announcer we've decided that we're going to resume this game at LaGuardia Airport, but the game has been called here at the Polo Grounds." and that was it, and they had to give all the money back.
Christinapedia, you sent me pictures. Did you tag me on them? Because I'm not seeing them. I just scrolled through my Facebook page, and I'm not seeing them, but send them again and tag me so this way maybe on Sunday I'll try to remember and we can show you the difference between what it looked like what it looks like today versus what it looked like a year ago as far as the autumn colors are concerned. Okay, so on that particular note, let's just quickly just kind of go over the stats. By the way, before I do this, I just remembered Bad Weather Takes on Twitter, who I follow, and I really enjoy it because he puts up the stuff that. Oh, okay, I'll take a look. Thank you, Christinapedia. He puts up stuff that people, it's a look at the manufactured clouds by the geoengineering, deep state and that kind of stuff. But he put this up, and it blew my mind. So the newspaper in Naples, Florida, puts on their newspaper.
Don't tell me.
Or on the website. It was on the
Don't
website. What?
You're gonna say that the Ian was caused by chemtrails?
No. On their website, they put the story is that Tropical Storm Karl forms in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay. which it
Right.
did, but they put it with a picture of Hurricane Dorian
Oh,
in the Bahamas. Now, I'm thinking I'm gonna just give the benefit of the doubt. They probably told some intern to find a hurricane picture of some sort, and he pulls up Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas, approaching the Bahamas. So right off the bat, somebody should have said, "Well, you know what? It's in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's in the Atlantic, so we can't use that. It's wrong." Uh, but I don't want to think that they deceptively did that just to get clicks, so that somebody, because most people, if they half read what's on their social media, you're lucky. They look at the picture, they see it, they're going to click on the link, and then find out that Karl's in the southwest Gulf, that it's moving southward toward Mexico, and is absolutely no threat to the United States. But that sort of stuff, Joe, never happened years ago. Before the advent of social media, that sort of stuff never happened. Not that I ever saw.
well, it's true. We've said this more than a few times, that it's wonderful, all the information, all the stuff that's available thanks to social media, stuff that we never had a chance to uh, grab onto, or if we did, we'd have to wait a long time, or we'd have to wade through a whole lot of stuff to get to it. The problem is that you've got people who just arbitrarily take this stuff, post it, and now thousands of eyes, or somebody maybe even millions of eyes, see it, and they get the wrong impression as to whatever that particular post or message actually means.
Yeah, I just shook my head when I saw that. Okay, I have Christinapedia's pictures, but what I'm not sure of is, you say pics of, these are pics of leaves changing this year. Just so happens I took a screenshot of the camera last year on October 13th, and then this is from today. So is the picture on the left from a year ago, and the picture on the right is today? Because there is a difference between the two. So I'm assuming that they're going to assume that the picture on the left is from a year ago, and here is said picture, and you'll see it here in a moment. And I'll get myself out of the way. So you see how green it is. And thank you very much, Christinapedia, for sending me this. And there it is. I'm guessing that that's from a year ago, and this is the same one now. You can see the reds are already in there, and even some yellows showing up. So maybe it's going to turn out to be an okay season color-wise. I saw Chuck Cardillo saying he took some pictures too, and that at least where he is up in the Catskills, that it really looks nice this year in terms of the leaf change.
Yeah, well, I said that this had nothing to do with color, but up where I am on my property, I mean, last year we had all those green furry walnuts about the size of golf balls all over my front lawn. This year, hardly any nuts at all, and I presume it was because of the fact that we had a rather hot and especially dry summer, and that must have done something to the walnut tree. All the walnuts got squelched, I guess, by the heat, and it's a whole different story. But as I also said, just in the last few days, I've noticed a rather noticeable change to coloration on many of the trees in and around my area. But unfortunately, a lot of them are also on the ground, so that may have something to do with the fact that we had a dry summer as well. Anyway, it's different, and we said, Joe, if it's so much different than 1 year ago, the script is different, and so we should lead into the winter season this year on a different note than what we did last year. Last year, if you remember, we had record warmth in December, severe weather in portions of the Tennessee River and Ohio River Valley in the middle part of December, and then all of a sudden everything flipped and we went right into a wintry type weather pattern for January and February. So what are we going to see this year? It's still up in the air, so to speak.
That it is. And on that note, it's, you know what time it is, Joe? It's 8:19 Eastern Time. which is
Yes,
which is as good a time as any for Briller Jeopardy, which you have tonight.
I will get it.
Okay, and the chat
Hang on.
board, you follow everybody on the chat board. We want you to participate while Joe is getting it. Uh, David Fuller hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, David. Most appreciated. And yeah, the rain has quieted down on the Jersey Shore. It's probably almost done for you, the way it looked like on the radar. But you never know. There still might be one last downpour or two left in the tank before this all finally moves out. Anyway, we got another super chat hit here, and that is from the chairman, Scott Briller. Hi, Weather Family, doing a Briller Jeopardy on the road, but nobody knows Weather Jeopardy like our Weather Family, he says. Well, he's quite right. Folks on the chat board are very savvy weather-wise. Well, they're savvy enough. They're savvy enough that they watch the Joe and Joe Weather Show, of course.
So tonight we have a question: how many times in October has each of the following cities recorded measurable snow? This would be 1 inch or greater, since records have been kept. And here's the hint: no city more than 8 inches. The chat board can play along as well. So
wait, hold on, Joe. Hold on. You said how many times?
How many times in October has each of the following cities recorded measurable snow amounting to 1 inch or greater since records have been kept?
Okay, because you brought up the idea of that nobody got over 8 inches, so I was trying to figure out, what does that have to do with how many times it snowed?
Hint: no city more than. Okay, you're right. Hint: no city more than 8. So none of the cities.
All right,
none of the cities have had more than 8 times.
Okay.
That they've had measurable snow in October.
Gotcha. Okay, so all right, I'm ready to go if you are.
Well, let's start off with Boston, Beantown.
How many times have they gotten measurable snow in Boston, based, I guess, on how long their records go back? I'm thinking. So the stations that have bigger data sets are going to have bigger numbers, and I don't know how many. Is it Logan? Is it over at the old Weather Service office? But I'll lay that aside, and I will say 6 times.
And you would have to have your answer. 3 times they've had measurable snow in Boston in October.
Which means Chuck Cardillo is right. He said 3. I see David Fuller was too high with 7. Christina Pedia said 10, but 8 is the cap tonight, okay? 8 is the cap on the number of times. Okay, let me make that clear. 8. Last night it was 8 inches. Nobody had more than 8 inches. Tonight it's 8 times. Okay. All right. Now the next one, I'm going to save my guess. I'm going to type it on the chat board and see what everybody else puts up, and then you can tell us the answer. What's the next city?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia, if Boston only had it 3 times, I'm going to say, I'm going to put it on the board. Let's see what everybody else says. But I'm going to go with 2, and William Uber went with 2, and Christopher Alley went with 2, and Leon Pogritsky 1, David Fuller 1, Frank Riccio 3, Christina Pedia 2, Mike Azera 2, Miss Valerie 2, Mark D 2, James Davison 2, Tyler Fienga 2, Dennis Cassia 2, Tom Clams 2. That's a new name on the board. Welcome, Tom. Louis Orizio 1. And Mark Franz says 2012 was a hit, so maybe that's the one. Johnny Quest says 3. The chairman says between 1 and 8. That's correct. That's our range here.
But he's the one. Yeah, okay.
No, but he's reminding everybody that that's the range. So everybody seems to be settling on 1 or 2. I'm going to go with 2. What is the answer, Mr. Rayo?
3.
3. Oh, Johnny Quest said 3. And nobody else said 3. Okay, so now what's the next one?
Washington, D.C. Washington. This is David Brinkley. We're asking for the answer to the question: how many times has measurable snow fallen in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.?
in the month of October.
In the month of October. Do you have an answer, Chet?
I'm going to say, I put it on the chat board. I'm going to say 2. Chris Alley says 1. Tim says, I don't know. He's having another conversation with somebody else. Mark D, 42, 1. Charles Gall, 1. Tom Clams never has Washington, D.C. He's got a 0. Leon, 3. Frank Riccio, 2. David Fuller, 1. So it looks like everybody's in that 1 to 2 range. Brian Cater says 4. Brian, I think, is new to the chat board. Welcome, Brian. Mark Francis, 2. And most people are either 1 or 2, but you have a few that went higher. So what is the answer, Mr. Rayo?
Washington, 3.
3. I was thinking of going up to 3 over Philadelphia. Washington's in kind of an odd place sometimes when you get these systems that go to the south. But no matter. So the answer was 3.
Again.
Oh, okay, what's the next one?
Central Park.
Oh, New York City? Central Park? I'm going to say, well, I'll put it NYC.
Well, just as a review, Boston, 3. Philadelphia, 3. Washington, D.C., 3.
All right, I'm going to go with 4. I'm going to say 4. So I'm going to put 4 on for me. And let's see. So Tyler Fienga says 3. Tim says 4. Leon says 3. I say 4. Joe Z says 4. Tommy Clam says 3. Chuck Cardillo, 3. David Fuller, 4. Johnny Quest, 5. Brian Cater, 3. Steve LaPointe, 5. And the chairman up. He's got the trophy winner. The trophy up. So who? who's the winner, Joe? I have 4.
Then you get the trophy because it is Central Park, 4.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Believe it or not. So, how about we try for the Queen City? Do you know what the Queen City is, Joe?
The Queen City? Is it Montreal?
No.
The Queen City. I should know this.
There's a Briller Jeopardy question right there on the chat board. Does anybody know what the Queen City happens to be?
The Queen City. The Queen City. Is it in New England?
No.
No. Sheboygan?
No. It's in Ohio.
Oshkosh? Well, all right. So let me rattle off some. Cleveland? Akron? No. Columbus?
No.
Cincinnati?
Cincinnati!
There ain't another thing clean to Cincinnati.
WKRP in Cincinnati. How many times in Cincinnati has it snowed measurable snow in October?
In Cincinnati.
Yes.
I am going to put my answer on the... By the way, I drove through Cincinnati a couple of times when I went to visit my daughter in Columbus. It's a nice little city. You get through it fairly quickly, but it's a nice little city. I'm going to say 6 for Cincinnati. Leon Probitsky says 4. William Uber, 4. Dennis Cassia, 5. Frank Riccio, 3. Chuck Cardillo, 1. Chris Alley, 5. Tim says 2. And Civilian Waters says, and Joe doubled me. So what did I say? I said 6, so he must have 3. Norm Roberts, 5. Mark D, 42, 5. Is Fallerite, 4. Johnny Sachs, 4. Joe Z, 4. David Filler, 5. Joe Lopresti, 6. Hi, Joe. Tyler Fienga, 3. Steve LaPointe, 3. Christina Pedia, 4. Tom Clabbs, 5. Scott, the chairman says everybody's in range. So the answer is 7.
The answer is 4.
4.
4.
4. Oh, I would have thought it would have been a little higher. Is that the last one?
No, it's not.
Okay. What's the next
one? In fact, if you ever go to Cincinnati, they have one of the most powerful radio stations, 700 and it dates back. It's one of the earliest ones. It's a 2-letter call, WLW, and you could hear that in out of the 48 contiguous United States, that one radio station. I always say to myself, CBS 88 or 880 here in New York has a tremendous signal. You tune in. You could tune in almost any night in the New York area to 700 WLW, and it sounds like they're local. It sounds like they're right in New York, not necessarily in Cincinnati. Anyway, number 6 is Louisville.
Louisville. Okay, I'm gonna say, Louisville's another one that's like in a funny place. I'll say 4. Frank Riccio 1, Johnny Quest 6, Joe Lopresti 2, David Fuller 3, Christinapedia 2, Chris Alley 5, Mark D 42 4, Mark France, you got what is that, a crown? Oh, you're not sure. Norm Roberts 5, Leon Probitsky 3, Tommy Clams 3, Tyler Fienga 2, Miss Valorite 1, William Uber 4, Josie 3, Tim 3, Louis Rizio 2, Johnny Sachs. We're past Cincinnati, Johnny. We're doing Louisville. And Steve LaPointe says 1. So what is the answer?
The answer is 4.
Ah.
And you look at the the name of this particular city, and some might say Louisville, some might say Louisville. What is the correct pronunciation of the capital of Kentucky? Because that's what state we're talking about.
Well, it's Louisville. It's not Louisville. It's Louisville.
No, it's Frankfurt.
It's Frankfurt. Yes, I was trying to remember the capital of Kentucky, and I said, no, it's not Louisville, and it's not Lexington. I mean, Lexington is where Keeneland is, and that's where I want to go in 3 weeks for the Breeders' Cup, but I'm not going to be able to do that since the tickets are like $600 or some outrageous amount of money.
Oh, of course.
Okay. Is that it?
We have one more, and then we have a bonus. So we'll make this quick. Kansas City.
Kansas City. Miss Valorite, this is yours. So you need to get this right. So I'm going to say Kansas City. Again, also in a funny place. So how their data, we don't know what the data set is. So I'm going to take a shot here and go 6. Tyler Fienga 3, Joe Lopresti 3, Robert Russo 3, Frank Riccio 3, Chris Alley 2, Leon 6, David Fuller 2, William Uber and Norm Roberts at 7. Waiting for Miss Valorite. Miss Valorite, where is your prediction?
She said 3.
She did say 3. Josie 5, Mark France 5, Chuck Cardillo, Dennis Cassia 5, Howard Hassel 5, Johnny Sachs. He's back. He's still in Louisville. He said, "Johnny, I guess your posts are posting late." And the answer is
8.
8. So it was good that I went high. I went higher than any. Did I go higher than anybody else? No. William Uber and Norm Roberts said 7. Okay. Yeah. So you got it.
And here's
going over.
And here's the last one. Ready?
Yep.
Juneau.
Oh, Juneau, Alaska? Well, look, if it's not higher than 8, I'll say 6. So Juneau, Alaska is 6. Let me put that on the board. Joe Lopresti just said 7. Juneau 6 is what I'm going for. It's not higher than 8, Leon. Chris Alley 4, Frank Riccio 8, Christinapedia 7, Howard Hassel 7, Scott NYC 8, Mark D 42 4, Johnny Quest 8, Chuck Cardillo 8, Steve LaPointe 8. Joe Z says 9, but it's 8 is the max number tonight. Dennis Cassia, Mark Franz 7, David Fuller 3, Tommy Clams 6. I love that, Tommy Clams. Should be a Sopranos character. Michael Azara 5, And Steve LaPointe said 8. So the answer is
6.
6.
Half a dozen days.
And what did I say? I forgot. What did I say?
I got to run.
I put it up here.
6.
I said 6.
You hit it.
I hit it on the nose. Total lucky.
Yeah.
Totally. I should be able to pick lotto numbers as well as I pick some of these, because they're, there's a little thought process behind it trying to figure it out, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's a guess. So anyhow, okay. Well, you know what time it is now?
It's 8:35.
That is correct, and that means it's time for us to say goodbye on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight and spending your evening with us. Joe and I are going to be taking tomorrow and Saturday off, since it doesn't look like there's any nasty weather pending anywhere in the United States that's relevant. So we will be back on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So do tune in, and we'll see you then. Have a great Friday and a great weekend. Nighty-night, everybody.
Good night.